session of a new campaign, and he's TPK'd his players. How has he managed this? Welcome back to Dungeons & Dragons. I am Horseboy. I am here on my own today. I'm missing poor little Happy. Happy's off gallivanting in Dublin City somewhere, I think. I was curious to see what is like some of the all-time top posts across DM academies while we're on today. I came across this little juicy one, so title of it is First Time DM. My first session ended instantly within the first minute of it starting with a TPK. I think we did actually have something similar, a similar story happen in one of our other videos. But it was interesting to see. He says in the first minute of this one, so I'm not too sure what went wrong. Because at least with the other one, I'm fairly certain it was a bit into the campaign. He just threw like 2 high-level monsters at his party and wiped them all. Or something. I started DMing at my local game store last night. It was my first time DMing, so the campaign started in a tavern. As usual. All started at level 1, a bard, rogue, fighter, druid, sorcerer. It all started and they introduce themselves. The rogue starts with that he may not be all he seems. Typical rogue behavior, can't go wrong there. The sorcerer casts detect magic at the table they are all sitting around. A roll for wild magic. He has to roll on the wild magic table. Oh no. He rolls a fireball on himself. Rolls almost max damage. He instantly kills not only himself, but the entire party and most of the people in the tavern. Fuck sake. We were all speechless. As a new DM, I didn't know what to do. The other DM in the store just said that can happen sometimes. I should try let it play out the way it happened and let them roll new characters and continue the campaign. Remember, he was in a shop when this happened, so he must have leaned over to the lads across the room. I was like, what do I do here? That's actually kind of funny, because most other people you just be like, what the fuck? He's looking over at the other table. I'm not sure though. That was crazy. How do we continue the campaign where the whole party died? Interesting. So off the bat, in my opinion, there's a lot of ways we can handle this, and I think we've covered these in some of our other videos as well. You know, TPK doesn't always mean that it is the end of that campaign. You know, remember, this is set in well, it depends on your world, I suppose, but in general, in most D&D, you're set in a fucking high enough fantasy world where there's other realms even. You know what I mean? So you could continue that. Now, since it's a new DM, it probably wouldn't be a great idea to drag them into some other plane of existence where they have to fight to come back to the real world or to the material plane or anything like that. It might be a little bit too much for a beginner DM, but there's a lot of other kind of aspects you can take for this. And for me, if it's your first session within probably the first roll of the campaign as well, right? Because he says the rogue says some edgy rogue things saying that I'm not all I might look at, or whatever he says. And a sorcerer casts to detect magic, and then they roll on the wild magic table. So a reminder for I might actually explain that for people who might not be too familiar. Yeah, so it's a wild magic sorcerer, so it's kind of like a sorcerer is different to the other spellcasters in the game, depending on, you know, sorcerer is more you can be born with something. You can be gifted a kind of innate magical, like attuneness to the magic in the world. So your magic just comes from yourself in a sense, majority of the time, or might be like a curse. You know, that's where a wizard is kind of like, you know, the book smart sort of magic user in a sense, through pure learning and understanding of magic and spells, as if it was a science that you're able to cast these spells. A bard is, you know, through its music or through its art, generates magic is the best way that I see it. A warlock is more to do with a patron, so there's a pact between yourself and a deity of some kind, maybe a high level kind of devil, or, you know, a very high powerful being. There's a pact with you and some other being. So sorcerer, sorry, where I'm going with this, I get this sidetracked. Druid and sorcerer are the only magic casters that really have an inherent kind of connection to it. In a sense, if druids are connected through the power of nature, where sorcerer could be, as we mentioned, through the power of whatever it is that maybe you're the birthright of some deity or some shit, you know what I mean? So I believe it's only these two classes that have it. Is a druid and a sorcerer has a wild magic kind of domain. So what wild magic is when you cast a level 1 spell or higher, it's at the DM's discretion is the important part, right? So at the DM's discretion, they can ask you to roll to see the roll on the wild magic table, in a sense of, you know, there might be this burst of energy that comes out that you might not have full control on. It's kind of the best way to think of it. So in this scenario, you could question is like, the DM it's probably like on the DM's mind to be like, okay, that person has wild magic, must remember it. Because as I said, most of there's very little that's beneficial in wild magic table, if I remember correctly. So that's why it's not like the player's discretion, it's the DM's discretion to really like call upon it. So in a way, the DM could have really like, maybe we won't make him do what magic on his first spell. A little bit harsh, but at the same time, new DM. It's probably on top of his mind. They're probably trying to like stay on top of all the different things that you have to as a DM anyway. So he's like, oh, they're casting a spell. Wild magic table, and of all things. Actually, I wonder what number. It's a D100 list of effects or kind of random. So you would have had to roll a 7 or an 8 to cast a fireball at 3rd level. And a fireball at 3rd level, I feel like. Oh wait, I need to check this out now. Fireball is the classic like damage spell in my mind. I think a lot of people's. A fireball deals 86 damage. The average is 28 damage. Is average for a cast of fireball, and it's centered on the caster, on the sorcerer for this, and they're all sitting around a table. There's a 20-foot radius, so it's a 40-foot diameter fireball. So needless to say, I think he like fucking scorched the whole tavern, or at least half the tavern, and everyone around this table. But 28 points of damage when you're a first level character is. I think that would just wipe, as he says, it just wipe the party instantly. So sorry, I think I got a bit sidetracked with the numbers, but I was just kind of be curious there as to like, Jesus, what's the odds of that happening, or like how likely would it be they survive? Not very. So as to how to handle this as a DM, so first one is to continue the kind of story in another realm. Not great for an unexperienced DM. Really have to think on your feet, because you have to really understand and have a good understanding of what realm they could be going to and stuff like that too. Because if you don't have anything prepared for this scenario, you really have to freeball it, and they're only a minute into their first session, or a couple of minutes into their first session, like as well. So not something I'm very fond of doing, but in a situation like this, retconning the asking him to roll on the wild magic table, I think is absolutely. I wouldn't have an issue with that whatsoever. But I think he can do it in a fun way, though. I don't think he'll say that doesn't happen. I think he can do it in a fun way. For me, I'd be kind of like the camera zooms out. Like if you think of it like we're watching a movie, I would describe it as like the camera zooms out from the tavern, and you just see the fireball. Maybe it blows out some of the windows, and like half the tavern goes on fire. And the camera like zooms out into the sky, and then it zooms back in on a tavern across in the other side of town, and it's just your players sitting around as they react. So like, geez, fucking hell, what was that? Like I think there's interesting ways, or you could even just like you say, oh, we jumped to an alternate reality where that didn't happen. There's fun little ways to get a laugh out of it. You could just retcon it and say it doesn't happen, but I think if you're able to like incorporate it into a bit of stupid storytelling like that, I think you get a little bit more fun out of it. And it's also just like that's going to be hilarious. Everyone's going to remember that as their first fucking session playing as well. You know what I mean? That's hilarious. But also from a player's perspective, right? I'm all for character death. Like I don't think it's a thing that should be avoided in your games as a DM. I suppose once again, every session is going to be unique. Every session is going to be different. For me, I like the fact that there is risk involved, and I think I personally like it when the players get into the characters, when they actually do develop relationships with the other characters, get close to them, they feel like they're close friends with them, even though it makes it feel more real when everyone has that heartbreak when you do lose a character. So in this scenario though, it's different, because I'm like, they never got a chance to flesh out those characters like from the get-go. So I'd be very cautious about making them create new characters at this point for it. I'm sure some DMs would, but for me, I just kind of think, you know what? We'll say that this happened in the other part of the town, and our tavern heard the explosion go off. I'm curious. I want to see what some of the kind of top comments we have going. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. So the top comment is brilliant. It's kind of similar to what I was actually saying too. They just say, somewhere another group of very similar characters enters a tavern. Let it happen. Let the new party hear about an inn exploding. That's very similar to what I was saying. And burn into the ground. Let it be a running gag to the story. Point is why the townsfolk are so scared of magic users. Perfect, man. That's even better. Yeah. They went even that little bit further, whereas the whole town is a little bit terrified. She was like, "Geez, did you hear about fucking McGovern's tavern?" You know what I mean? It'd be a rumor. Like you can actually incorporate it into your campaign a bit and have it as a running joke. That's a brilliant idea. Third option. They wake up to find that all their clothes have been incinerated. Everyone else at the bar has died in the inferno. They were spared without a scratch on them. A note attached to the burnt, fallen beam next to them simply reads, "You're welcome. I look forward to making your acquaintance in the flesh. Until then, try to stay out of too much trouble." Who or why they received this note is up to you. Might not work with the group, but if they're psyched to play the original characters, this is a fun one. Yep, once again, and that kind of leads into the point I made there. Don't forget, this is a magical world. You know what I mean? You can have a little bit of shit that's like a little bit like, woo, oh, you survived through the power of some other deity, woo. Or maybe you don't know who saved you. Maybe you'll meet them down the line. You know, that's perfect because that sets up a curiosity straight away as well. You know what I mean? That sets up a curiosity for this character. Like I'd be already trying to make the connections as to who that was and why would they be willing to help them out in that scenario without actually knowing them at all, really. But this is where character backstories come in. You know, the character maybe, look, this is it. This is it. This is the little bits I love about this game. When you start trying to piece together a thread of a story, you know, and you start kind of pulling on the little bits, and before you know it, you got this long fucking thread. Because I was just thinking, it's like, well, maybe this person who saved them actually only wanted to save one person at the party, and it just so happened that the rest of them were protected. Let's say they cast some magic that kind of encased them maybe from the fireball, saved them from fireball in some way. But maybe it wasn't intended to save everyone of it. They just so happened to be so close to this person, this person that was the focus of the spell, that they happened to be saved. And then it builds a curiosity around, whoa, what's going on with that person? You know what I mean? It might kind of push a bit more role play out. It's like, you know, why would someone go to such lengths to keep you alive? And then maybe once again, if you can tie that into someone's backstory, maybe that's something that you can slowly incorporate into their character. Maybe you set up a role table for that character as well, in a sense of this recurring person in their story every now and then might reach in and just push the dial a little bit in their direction. You know, when they think they're getting a little bit out of hand, or when they're kind of losing a fight, or kind of like not making the right progress, something. You know what I mean? Because it adds that little bit of curiosity. Is that, well, why is this person trying to help you so much? So there's great little story beats. It's great little story beats that can all come out of this. You know what I mean? Do we have any other good comments? Oh, okay, so this person suggests have it be like the film. Have it be like the film Final Destination. Start the session recapping what happened, then describe that one of the other characters, other than the rogue or the sorcerer, suddenly looks up from their drink where they were having a really vivid dream. If you ever haven't seen Final Destination, it's like in the beginning of the movie, one of the characters is a flash forward to what was about to happen when they boarded a plane. I think it was something like that. So I guess in that sense, a little bit of divine intervention once again, or I'm going to say divine intervention, but clairvoyance or whatever you want to call it, where, you know, that character for a split second was granted the ability to see what was about to happen. And then you're straight into this moment where they're trying to convince, there's a bit of role play option there as well, they're trying to convince your characters not to fucking like do anything weird and all that sort of stuff. Not bad. I don't think it would be my choice, but not bad. Okay, let's read this one as our last comment. Bit of general advice. The point of D&D is to have fun. It is always okay to roll back and change events if the table isn't enjoying themselves. I know that this will be controversial. Some people get very upset when you suggest retconning, rewriting anything that happened in the game. To be clear, I don't mean that you should roll back every failure, far from it. Failure can be a lot of fun, absolutely. I think characters that hit a roadblock where they've failed something have a great opportunity to drive your character story forward, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's about some of my favorite characters. It's the failures that kind of change. The failures will change them in a way, not necessarily for their good, but it gets them onto a path where they slowly begin to kind of like find themselves and figure out what it is that they want. You know what I mean? So I think failure is always good. Even in life, failure is good. You learn from your failures, and that's the most important thing. If you don't learn from your mistakes, failures, then you're not doing it right. Always look back. Sorry, into real life stuff here. But honest to God, big key life advice is if you think you failed something, if you think you fucked something up, learn from it. If you fuck up and you don't learn from it, you've reaped nothing good. Nothing good has come out of it. Always look for what you could do different, how you could have improved something. That's how I kind of try and live things anyway. Sorry. I'm very sidetracked. Right, I think we're going to end it there. Let us know what you think in the comments. Let us know if you would do anything different. And any love in the video, any kind of recommendations, any criticism, Always greatly appreciated. We have all the socials down in the description, all that sort of stuff. See you next time. Videos every Monday.